independent in thought, and punk rock in life. It's The Chad Benson Show.
Our immigration system has been badly broken for a very long time. Over the decades, many presidents and many lawmakers have come and gone, and no real progress has been made. We are now living with the consequences, and they are tragic, brought about by decades of political stalemate, partisan gridlock, and national neglect. There is a humanitarian and security crisis on our southern border that requires urgent action.
So Trump surprised everybody on Saturday by not declaring a state of emergency, but offering some sort of olive branch that for some was shot down the minute it was coming out of his mouth. And for others, particularly in his base and people who've been his biggest supporters, didn't really sit well with them. Of course, he did the usual. It's about drugs.
Lethal narcotics are flooding through our border and into our communities, including meth, cocaine, heroin, and fentanyl. Drugs kill 78,000 Americans a year and cost our society in excess of $700 billion.
That's a lot. And the funny thing, I was talking to somebody over the weekend, and they were direct messaging me and saying, well, see, look, most of the drugs are caught at the ports of entry. I said, well, drugs are caught at the ports of entry. But do you think that's all that, look, dude, you can take the drugs only through the ports. You can't just walk it across. You can't do that. Of course not. Stop it. That's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. He still wants his money.
The plan includes $5.7 billion for a strategic deployment of physical barriers or a wall. This is not a 2,000-mile concrete structure from sea to sea. These are steel barriers in high-priority locations.
There you go. See, we're not even talking about this contiguous wall. Oh, my God, it's going to be, I think we do it with Legos. That'd be awesome. I was thinking about this morning away. Like, it'd be neat if it was Legos. It's big, giant-ass Legos, right? Just big Legos. People are getting in more over here than over here. We could just start moving the wall. Just Lego building over here. Chad, now you're not even being serious. Now, it's what Trump wants is $5.7 billion. I want everybody to understand this, and this is something I don't think people realize. We're seeing a shutdown going on. We're 31 days into the shutdown. Think about this. He wants $5.7 billion. That's not going to get everything done he wants. A year from now, we will be in the exact same situation, facing potentially another shutdown over this very same thing if they don't get something done that's comprehensive. And you and I both know that neither of these sides are really wanting to move on this thing, and they never have been. They kind of enjoyed the status quo. So that could mean potentially a year from now, Trump could be doing the exact same thing, and the Congress could be doing the exact same thing, and we could be sitting here going, wow, it's another one of these shutdowns. Trump did offer something, right? Because I was telling everybody, well, he's supposed to be the great negotiator. Yeah, but you got to have somebody you can negotiate with. If somebody's not going to negotiate with you, then it doesn't matter, does it? Right? It doesn't matter. So he threw some stuff out.
3 years of legislative relief for 700,000 DACA recipients brought here unlawfully by their parents at a young age many years ago. This extension will give them access to work permits, Social Security numbers, and protection from deportation, most importantly.
There you go. So he's offering 3 years, 700,000. What did they want? They wanted 250. I think that's what they originally wanted. So they're offering that. And people say, well, that's not, that's three. You've already undone DACA, so you could have just left alone. It would have been fine. But he's offering more than what was on there. And wait.
A 3-year extension of temporary protected status, or TPS. This means that 300,000 immigrants whose protected status is facing expiration will now have 3 more years of certainty so that Congress can work on a larger immigration deal, which everybody wants, Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah. So there you go. Did it go over well? Depends. Right? I think he should have done this from the beginning. I think he should have been more open with his negotiations, transparent, put it out there, put the ball in their court, make them look like the people that don't want to negotiate and at least try to change the tide. Are you willing to come down on your $5.7 billion? Are you willing to come down, right? We would like 2 number 1 draft picks and a player to be named later. Are you willing to come down on that? Because if you are, then maybe you say, look, I'll do $3.8 billion, right? I'll do $3.8 billion and you'll get this. $3.8 billion. How about that? Would you be willing to do that? Would you be willing to do 4? Would you be willing to do 3.5?
Do you think that the right can come behind that offer?
I think they can come behind what he's talking about in terms of TPS and protection and having Social Security numbers, and a path to working doesn't necessarily mean a path to citizenship. As you know, citizenship is very, very sacred, and that's a thing that sunk the Gang of 8 legislation. And that's what gets conservative hardline immigration Republicans really worked up, is the idea that they will be granted amnesty.
Yeah, and it depends on, who you're listening to. He didn't say amnesty, right? He didn't say any of those things. But people are, and you saw Ann Coulter, and this is what happens when you let the fringes, who are extreme, control conversations on either side, is you're not going to get anything done. And I don't think we can do that. Do I think this moves anything or changes anything? I do not. I think we're in a situation where we're exactly where we were last week, except now he's thrown out something. He's done it. I still think in the end, he's going to be the first person that has to stand up and say, guess what? I am going to have to declare a state of emergency, and then we'll let the courts sort everything else out. And that's just the way that's going to be. That right there. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us if you watched the football games yesterday, and I did. Great games. One was, both of them were a bit heartbreaking. If you're on the other side, if you're losing. The reality was that the refs cost the game for the New Orleans Saints. That's the truth. It was a horrible call. It was a missed call. They even admitted as much that they missed the call.
Frustrating, just getting off the phone with the league office. They blew the call, and there are a lot of opportunities, though, but that call puts it 1st and 10. We're on an E3 plays, and it's a game-changing call. Yeah,
it's a game-changing call, and it was a game-changing call. Not in the way that it should have been or he wanted it to be. That right there, Sean Payton, the coach, but it was a game-changing call to say the least. And you know what? It was, if you saw it, it was a horrible, just a bad no call.
Came to the sideline, looked at the football gods, like, thank you. Got away with one tonight, It is what it is.
And that is the guy who committed it, the pass interference. And it was, look, I don't think either team played like gangbusters. New Orleans hasn't looked great the last several weeks. And the Rams haven't looked great either. It was an exciting game. It was unfortunate that people are talking less about the game and more about the missed call. But either way, you got to go up against the man. You got to go up against the myth. You got to go up against their legend.
To get to this point is extremely difficult. They've faced some challenges. They got a great team, great running back, great offense, great defense. So well coached. It's going to be a great game.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. It is. It's going to be fun. It'll be fun. And in fact, I think when they meet, if I am correct, and I could be wrong, I think it is like 20 years to the day that the Patriots won that first Super Bowl with the last-second kick and then has since gone on and done what they've done. And to put it into perspective, no team is ever going to do, I think, what the Patriots are doing. In a day and age where players have to move at times because to get paid, to be able to do the things that they do, the consistency with which they do it, government can learn a lot from what these guys do because these guys have, and this is the thing I was thinking about this weekend, government can learn so much from what Bill Belichick and the entire organization that is the New England Patriots. They have one goal, and that's to win. That's to win. They have one goal, which is to win. They're going to pull they're not going to pull and push. They're going to just pull in the same direction. They're not going to push each other and sometimes pull. They're going to move in the same direction. And they're going to move in a direction of it's about the betterment of the team. It's a bigger thing than that. It is. And, man, it is tough in this day and age to see what they have done and the way that they've done it with people willing to sacrifice. People like Tom Brady, who has on numerous occasions taken a lot less money than he could because he wants to win, and it's more important for him to win and to surround himself with people who can do the job than it is getting paid and then losing. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. What an interesting and great man. And we're going to touch about it in this day and age. I will tell you this. It is I often wonder what great people who have come and since gone would look at modern society, that the things that they fought in, whether it's MLK, whether it's Gandhi, whether it's so many of these others, what would they think of modern times? How would they look at modern times? Speaking of that, Steven Pinker is a great author and a professor at Harvard. He's going to join us later on. We're going to talk about modern times because we always hear about how horrible life is, how the world's falling apart, how we're all going to die. It's never been worse. But he's got statistics that say, yeah, and to show you how smart he is. He's the kind of smarty that backs up his stuff to the point where other people who don't agree with him, in particular in academia, are afraid to come at him because they know that this guy plays in a different world. He's the Tom Brady of academia. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. New year, new you. You're making resolutions by now. Most of you, your resolutions are, they're gone. Guess what, kids? Now is the time to re-up one of those ones. Get better sleep. Sound, amazing sleep. Change those habits that are awful. Get better sleep now. That's where MyPillow comes in. 100% machine washable and dryable, made in the USA, backed by a 10-year warranty. And I will tell you this right now. They are amazing. Got a special offer for you. Use my promo code Benson. You're going to buy one, get one free. All right? Buy one, get one free. 100% machine washable, dryable. I'm telling you guys how easy it is. You know how much you sleep on your pillows. And you throw them in there, you wash them, boom, out they come. It's amazing. They are so incredible. So you can get 2 premium pillows for the price of one. You buy one, you get one free. I slept so amazing this weekend. Took a little nap on Saturday, slept great Saturday into Sunday, slept great last night. I feel refreshed and amazing. It's little things like that go a long way in my life. Trust me, it will for you too. Get in MyPillow right now and get a second one for free. 800-944-4975 or go to MyPillow.com. That's MyPillow.com. Use promo code Benson. You buy one, you get one free. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Buy one, get one free. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Set Chad straight. Text the show, 323-538-2423. That's 323-538-CHAD. Someone has to do it. Might as well be you. The Chad Benson Show.
Because of this, as a result of this, there will be a lot of talk about potentially reviewing penalties or game-changing type penalties. You know, it's just like all the reviews that go up into the booth within the, inside of 2 minutes, maybe that's something that will happen in regards to certain penalties as well that are game-changing type penalties, which obviously that one was today.
That right there, Drew Brees talking about yesterday's it was a horrible call, or non-call, if you will. And oddly enough, the commissioner of the NFL can actually void the Rams' win and then make them play from the point where there was a foul. So not give the victory to New Orleans, but make him play from that point. So not that he's not going to do that, but there'll be more talk. We got all this technology. Look, guys are huge. These guys are going 1,000 miles an hour, and you've got men in their, 40s, 50s, 60s, some of them, running around, even though there's a bunch of them on the field, trying to keep up with them. It is just, and a woman, you're right, and a woman. So it's you got to look at it and say, we got the eyes in the sky. Why not use them? Why not? I mean, we don't want to take the humanity out of it, but why not use them? Because for the amount of money that is risked out there on a day-to-day basis, for the billions of dollars spent, why not get it right? It's that simple. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Of course, it is MLK Day today, and so everybody on the Democratic side's out doing their bit to make sure they bring the country together.
We now have a president of the United States who is a racist.
He was my favorite in the Muppets. It's up in the, what are those guys called again? Bergdorf and up in the Muppets?
Statler and Waldorf.
Yeah, Statler and Waldorf. He's my favorite. Oh, my Lord. It is just, it's interesting, right? You got that going on today. Then you've got an announcement from Kamala Harris that, guess what?
The day we celebrate Dr. King is a very special day for all of us as Americans, and I'm honored to be able to make my announcement on the day that we commemorate him.
She's a player. I don't care what people say. She's a player. But how well does her brand of politics, even from the Democratic side, and this is something that we've talked about before, the middle of the country, whether you like it or not, it exists. And that flyover country has Democrats and Republicans, and a lot of Democrats see her as a progressive, not a Democrat, which makes them still uncomfortable because a lot of those Democrats in the middle of the country do support the Second Amendment. A lot of those Democrats in the middle of the country aren't the same as Berkeley, Northern California, Manhattan kind of Democrats. And is that the voice? But I think she's a player. I absolutely do think she's a player. So we'll see. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Buzzfeed defending still their side of said story that was released on Friday. And the next thing you know, it turns out to be false because, or at least that's what Mueller is saying. Could there be more at this than what meets the eye? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show, Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent in thoughts and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
So last week on Friday, late Thursday night, Friday, everybody, the world was abuzz because Trump had done something potentially. He told Michael Cohen that, hey, guess what? You should totally lie. Buzzfeed News, not Buzzfeed. Let's get the two of them separated. They're trying their hardest. They've been nominated for Pulitzers, which is apparently a pretty darn good thing. And you remember Anthony Cramer, who is the reporter in this story, when asked about, hey, are you sure about this? Are you positive about this? Is what he said on Friday.
No, I've not seen it personally, but the folks that we've talked to, the two officials that we've spoken to, are fully 100% read in to that aspect of the special counsel's investigation.
So he said, hey, all the stuff that we're hearing, these people are read in, meaning they have seen it all. They know it. They know everything they need to know about this. They are there big time. But an odd thing happened. Mueller comes out and says, you know what? Yeah, it's a bunch of crap. That's whatever they're saying here, and we've seen in this, we've gotten to the point here where we're worried that this thing may be going in a direction that we don't want it to go, and we're not quite finished with it yet, and it's starting to get we have to come out. We don't want to, right? Because we've seen what happens when you become political. See James Comey. Even though you're not trying to be, but you have to at times think that you have to, insert yourself in a situation. This is one of the ones where they inserted themselves, Mueller and his team said, yeah, we find this to be a bunch of BS. Over the weekend, Same reporter from Buzzfeed, Anthony Cramer, talking about it, talking about his sources.
And this is going to be borne out, Brian. This story is accurate.
What if the sources are just wrong?
They're not.
Not intentionally, not trying to hurt you, but just what if they're wrong?
They're not. They're not. I'm confident.
That's Brian Stelter and him, Stelter arguing about what if they're wrong, but they're not. But what if they are? How about this? Everybody's taking the word of a liar. What if he is telling the truth in some way, but he lied to Mueller? Would that be a shocker? No. What if Mueller planted certain things inside of the investigation with certain people to maybe see, are there people inside of my investigation that I cannot trust with certain information because that information seems to be getting out? Also a possibility. Absolutely. This is Ben Smith. He's the editor-in-chief at Buzzfeed.
Who told us that the president directed Michael Cohen to lie to Congress.
Do you know who those two sources are? Because I know this was
Do
two
I know?
reporters. Yeah.
Of course I know.
Okay.
Yes. We've been reporting on the Trump Tower Moscow, which is at the heart of the Russia investigation for months. We broke stories about it. Honestly, this vague statement disputing the piece, and we really urge the special counsel to make it clear what he's disputing.
Yeah. That was the other thing. They're saying, well, hold on a second. He's disputing some of the information. What information is he disputing here? And look, people ask me, you can say, well, Chad, you said the other day that you believe Trump could. Of course I do. Look at the man's history as a human being. I'm not talking about presidential. Come on now. Come on. Do I think, and I tweeted out over the weekend, I don't think that Bob Mueller's on a witch hunt. I think the media and the powers in the left are on the witch hunt. I think Bob Mueller has been tasked to do a job. He's doing it. You may not like the way he's doing it. He wasn't given certain parameters, which means he's kind of gone all over the place. But in doing so, he's uncovered a bunch of unscrupulous individuals who were into a bunch of different things, most of which, if not all of them, were in it for themselves, and it did things long before they ever came across the campaign of the president. But I don't think he's on a witch hunt. I think he's doing a job. Right? And as he sets his web, he's catching flies. He's not going to throw those flies away. He's going to do what he does. But I do think the media and people that don't like Trump are definitely on the hunt.
They're obviously some of the best lawyers in America, and they are clearly referring to something, and we hope that they will tell us what they are referring to. I mean, I think at this point, we would hope that they would clarify that. I mean, I think that would be the responsible thing for them to do.
Yeah, well, it's a big, let me tell you something, it's a big, you guys see Bob Mueller. I mean, he's, he looks like Herman Munster, doesn't really seem to smile that much, but for him to say, hey, you guys, we need to issue something here, for him to do something like that, that makes me go, oh, that's that. You're doing something there, right? Like that's a doing something, because you wouldn't think he would go out and do something like that unless he felt the need to. But I'll tell you what, the black eye this weekend was the media, right? It was. It just shows you the ridiculousness of it all. When people who support Trump, or people on the right, or people in the center who can sit here like me and go, you know what, I could, you can't tell me that there isn't hysteria and derangement syndrome when you miss over and over again. The New York Times, Los Angeles Times, the Washington Post, numerous television news outlets have swung and missed on so many occasions. But as I was saying earlier, in life, you ask yourself, would you rather be right or would you rather be rich? Meaning, we don't care if you're totally right, because we're not going to stick around to find out the entire side of all of this, right? BuzzFeed isn't going to be destroyed because of this. They weren't destroyed because of the dossier. No. They weren't. No, none of these companies are. What ends up happening is you say sensationalized things. Some of those things may be true. You may have real sources that do get you some stuff, and every once in a while, even a broken clock is right twice. But nobody sticks around long enough to find out. So if you got more attention out of it, even if it didn't do the thing you thought it was going to do, meaning maybe they were wrong and you're not going to win the Pulitzer for it, the fact is if you're gaining a little, then did you really lose?
I mean, they're not contradictory, but I just think this is a bad day for us. And I don't know, Brian, you seem to disagree a little bit. But I just think, it reinforces every bad stereotype about the news media.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when 85 to 90% of you are self-described liberals, right? And we now live in a world of it's all about fast, fast, fast. We don't need to collaborate. We don't need 5 or 6, 10 people checking in on a story. We don't need anything. We need, because we're competing with so many different people and we're competing with instantaneousness. It doesn't always matter if you're right. It's first mover advantage. And for the crowd that you're playing with, think about this for a second too. The crowd that reads Buzzfeed believes all of that stuff anyways. So even if you missed the mark, they were going there for affirmation. They weren't going there for information, and they didn't want to hear what Mueller had to say at all.
He honestly believes he's doing the right thing. He is not going, for better or worse, and I happen to agree with him, he does not believe you can secure a 1,900-mile border without having, in part, some barriers. And on this issue, he's strong as bear's breath. He's resolute.
John Kennedy, I love him. He needs his own show. He's strong as bear's breath. Man, do you understand that? He ain't going anywhere. He's as strong as bear's breath. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys.
Are pretty close to this thing right now. If each of them would appoint somebody in whom they have great confidence and tell them to go off for 2 or 3 days, meet, forget about all the politics, and bring me back a plan. You know what I think that plan would say? I think it would say we need to enhance security in our ports of entry. Yes. We need more border agents. We need more judges.
Senator,
and we
that's
need,
what it's always
part,
said.
a barrier.
That's what it's always said. They gave him $25 billion over 5 years.
No, you're making my point here.
There you go. Here we are, 31 days into it, and nothing's changing. He reached out. There's an olive branch. That's how the negotiation starts. You come back and you say, you know what, we'll give you $2.5 million. And then you say, how about this? Let's split the difference. We'll do $3.8 billion or $4 billion. We'll get this thing reopened and we'll go. But understanding that this is a bigger picture that the Democrats are looking at, because they're looking at 2020 and they're hearing the Ann Coulters of the world, and they're hearing others coming out and saying, oh, he's already backing down. He's just as bad as anybody else. He's giving in. He's playing politics, and his base is, non-educated, college-educated white voters. He's down 7-8% on those. They're starting to feel like this is just a big game. And then, all of a sudden, you think we can get him here. We may not be able to take him out through impeachment and a resignation or anything else, but we could get it here. So if we stand our ground, we feel, who cares if we're morally right or wrong or whoever gets the blame? If we can knock him out of the presidency, we'll do it. We'll do it early. 323-538-2423. 323-538-2423. So last week, Prince Phillip, 97 years old, crashed. We talked about what's too old to be on the road. And lo and behold,
whatever public sympathy there may have been for the prince after this accident is fast disappearing. He is back on the road, and one of those injured women not happy with how she feels she's been treated by the palace.
Yeah, he's back out on the road, and it is, people are upset about it, including Emma Fairweather.
It's highly insensitive and inconsiderate towards me and everybody involved.
Yeah, because he said it was sunny. And first of all, I'm like, sunny? It's England. I've lived there for a long time. It's only sunny in spats. But if it was sunny, you could understand why you would crash, because, my God, people are like, oh, my God, the sun's out.
I don't remember it being sunny that day. I would never want to put myself in a position where I would say that the Duke is not being honest, but I do not recall that day was sunny.
People are like, was he Duke? Is he a prince? Is he Duke? Was he not a king? Because he's not a king. That's Queen Elizabeth. That's her line. He married in. God. It's confusing. I get it. It's confusing. But, God, I got more people texting me in about the fact that we talked about when is too old to drive. And when we were just talking about the fact that it's, again, the whole thought process about something like that is, if I take away mom or dad's keys or grandma and grandpa's keys, that's more work for me. And you'd think with technology it'd be easier with Uber and all of this stuff, but nope. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Somebody just texted and said, as bad as the call was, there were other calls that went against the Rams, or Rams didn't get a call. There was a few. I know there was a really bad face mask on Goff that wasn't called that would have kept the drive alive too. So, yeah, I get it. But that one was just so awful. So awful. It was, and at that time too, you hope. The best thing you can do if you're a referee in sports is nobody to ever know your name. Because that means that you weren't part of something that caused controversy. Hey, when it comes to meat, there is no controversy. When quality matters, you go to Butcher Box. I made the switch, so should you. Delivered right to your door every month. Meat's guaranteed to be humanely raised. No antibiotics or hormones, which is great. The beef is incredible. This grass-fed, grass-finished. The chicken is just amazing. The pork is just, I love the pork. And, yeah, now they've got Alaskan sockeyed salmon, sustainably harvested, Salmon Bay, in Bristol Bay, in Alaska. The color is so amazing. You're going to be like, wow. And I am not a fish eater, but this is incredible. Less than $6 a meal for a month's worth of meat. Cuts and quality you won't find anywhere else. Comes straight to you. So inexpensive to get what you're getting. Here's what they're doing for my listeners. 2 pounds of wild Alaskan sockeyed salmon, $20 off your first box. All you have to do is go to butcherbox.com/Chad. Limited time. Again, 2 pounds of wild Alaskan sockeyed salmon, $20 off your first box. Go to butcherbox.com/Chad. Butcherbox.com/Chad. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. ChadBenson. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Experiencing separation anxiety? That's dumb. Check out Chad 24/7 at his website, ChadBensonShow.com, and on iTunes, free. The Chad Benson Show. Never feel lonely again.
They always underestimate the mastermind.
As predicted, M. Night Shyamalan's Glass is the #1 film this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday weekend. Estimates have it earning just over $47 million through Monday. That's a little lower than expected. $50 million was the low end of predictions, $75 million the high end. $47 million would make it the third best MLK Jr. holiday weekend opening.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston's The Upside, still holding strong in second, with Aquaman in third.
But what came in fourth surprised everybody. Dragon Ball Super Broly came in fourth. It opened up on Wednesday night, playing in just a select amount of theaters. It's already done over $20 million. $20 million. Think about that for a second. $20 million in a movie that had no play whatsoever. I didn't see one trailer for it. And trust me, I watch trailers because I love movies, because I already saw Glass. I liked it. It's good. Enjoyable. But that movie was crushing it. And I mean, literally in 1,100. They decided after the Wednesday and Thursday showings that it had done so well to kind of expand it. And they did so rather quickly. It's crazy. I was like, what? Get out of town. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Oh, he was old, kids. He was old.
It was a peaceful end for 113-year-old Masazo Nonaka, who died in his sleep at his family's Hot Springs Inn on Japan's northern main island of Hokkaido. Nonaka had outlived all 7 of his brothers and sisters, his wife, and 3 of their 5 children. And he did it by eating sweets and spending time soaking in the springs. He'd get there in a wheelchair wearing a knit cap, which kind of became his trademark. There are nearly 70,000 people in Japan who are 100 or older, and the oldest living person in the world is also Japanese, a 116-year-old woman.
What? 113. I was thinking about that. I was reading him. Think about the things that he saw. Think about the things in life that he saw. The world wars, the changing of everything, the move from virtually having no modern technology at all to still seeing, I was reading an article, till still seeing feudal parts of Japan with samurais, to the modern world that we live in today. My God, that's a lot of stuff. That is a lot of stuff. He was too old to drive, by the way. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from you. Some of you still texting in, angry about the Saints game. I get it. Don't shoot the messenger. I said it was a bad call. It sucks. Go Rams. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent in thoughts and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The reason this is all happening is the president felt boxed in by his base. He almost signed off on a deal that would have extended funding for the government before the end of the year without any money for the wall. His base revolted. Conservative commentators basically coaxed him back to the view that a government shutdown was worth it. Now, many of them view extending protected status for refugees or for the Dreamers as amnesty. And now the president has to explain that, no, I'm not giving anything. So it puts him in a tough spot.
Now, Trump has talked about DACA all along. Long before this, he offered them double what they were asking for. People forget that. Schumer and them. But this is what happens. And somebody tweeted at me over the weekend, you fake conservative. I'm like, I'm not conservative. Where'd you get the idea? Well, you're on the radio, so you're conservative. Like, there you go. You just make general assumptions. Stop that. We shouldn't give a thing. I'm like, I tweeted back at him, so you don't want to give a thing? Nope. I said, is that how you run your business and your marriage? Well, no. Oh, okay. No, life's about trade-offs. What can you give me that's worth something? And what can I give you that's worth something that maybe we're not thrilled to give, but we can live with? But his base has painted him into a corner. And this is what happens when we allow extremes on either side to do the bidding for the masses. You get this. And that's not good. It's not good at all.
Moderate Democrats, some of the newly elected Democrats say maybe there is area for additional fencing, in additional border protections that aren't just drones and the like Nancy Pelosi's talking about. Maybe you do need a wall in portions of the border with Mexico. That is just enough of a window for the White House to jump through. They recognize that there are Democrats out there saying it. The question is, do you fracture them off if you aren't ending the shutdown? Because right now, Democrats are united on this point, and this point alone, that there's no negotiations that can happen as long as there is a government shutdown.
And the problem with that, and where I understand what the Republicans feel, is every time they say we'll get to it later, later never comes. So what then? That's a big question. But I'm telling you, he has put himself in a situation where, and I hear from a lot of people out there that it's not, and there's several Trump supporters. But there is a certain group that it's not only don't give them anything, throw everybody out. And it's this situation that not just politicians, but businesses, athletes, celebrities paint themselves into the certain situation where even being seen, talking, collaborating, whatever with somebody, it could get you in trouble. And it's ridiculous. It's not a way for business, government, human beings to operate. And I think there is a path here for something to get done. Is it going to please everybody? No. But the thing about being a leader is you've got to do what's best, right? It's not what people want. It's what's needed. And that's where a true leader comes in. Maybe it's not what everybody wants, because you're not going to make everybody happy. But it's what's needed to get something done. But when we have a zero-sum game on both sides where nobody's willing to give in, the moderate voices are shouted down and or eventually silenced by just getting frustrated and leaving, then you put yourself in a situation where you're allowing that flea to wag the tail, to wag the dog. That's not good.
Do you think that the right can come behind that offer?
I think they can come behind what he's talking about in terms of TPS and protection and having Social Security numbers, and a path to working doesn't necessarily mean a path to citizenship. As you know, citizenship is very, very sacred, and that's a thing that sunk the Gang of Eight legislation. And that's what gets conservative hardline immigration Republicans really worked up, is the idea that they will be granted amnesty.
Yeah. No, it's not amnesty. But it doesn't matter. Right? That's Kennedy. We love Kennedy. She's good people. They think it's amnesty. How dare you give in? Well, what are you giving? What are you giving here, huh? What are you giving? Because he came out this week and he talked about some of the stuff that he'd be willing to do.
3 years of legislative relief for 700,000 DACA recipients brought here unlawfully by their parents at a young age many years ago. This extension will give them access to work permits, Social Security numbers, and protection from deportation, most importantly.
Again, that's 700,000. Well, and the left's like, well, we already had DACA and you came and screwed it up. Well, DACA should never have been there in the first place. And you guys should have been forced to actually do something and come up with some meaningful legislation that would get stuff done in a way. On top of the 700,000, he's dangling out a little bit more.
A 3-year extension of temporary protected status, or TPS. This means that 300,000 immigrants whose protected status is facing expiration will now have 3 more years of certainty so that Congress can work on a larger immigration deal, which everybody wants, Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, but it's not going to get done. It's not going to get done because it's not there yet to the point where either side is so uncomfortable that if they don't act, the heat's going to get so far, so hot that kitchen's going to just catch fire. It's not there yet. It's not. It's not there yet. But we'll see. We shall see.
There are lots and lots of people who have a political view and they don't like the president. And before that, some people didn't like Hillary Clinton. And they so badly want something to be true that's negative about the president that they sometimes don't take the necessary time to analyze, take a deep breath, see if it's been corroborated by other notable news sources. Sometimes you need to pause and decide whether there are enough facts to support your jubilation because you don't like the president or your disappointment because you support the president.
That right there is Preet Bharara talking about the whole Buzzfeed, just insanity last week. And that's the tribalism we live in. Now, is the fact that people who read Buzzfeed, and let's separate, there's Buzzfeed and Buzzfeed News, right? But people who go to Buzzfeed or Vox or Mother Jones or whatever, Drudge or Breitbart, they are in many ways looking for affirmation, not information. And everybody wants this thing to be true, something that is finally concrete and impeachable, and BuzzFeed ran with it. And Mueller came out and said, yeah, that's not true, right? It's not true. But by then, you had celebrities, you had politicians, you had all of these people coming out and saying, ha, we've got him now. Not vetting the way that you should. Are you positive? Is this real? Are you 100% sure? Do we know? Because in the day and age that we live in, we no longer hold people and organizations accountable in a way that we used to. And because things move so fast, and because we have the attention span of a gnat, and we move on from something in these less than 24-hour news cycles now, it doesn't matter, right? Every book that's come out, and especially with this president, how many times has there been something that has been so damaging that this time, it's over. This time, he's done. This time, it's it. Every book, every salacious thing that you've heard, it's over and over and over, just nonstop. And then, it wasn't quite true. Or, well, the sources got it wrong. Or, well, nobody gets held to the accountability because the people that they're speaking to, more often than not, they're looking for affirmation. So even if you get it wrong, they're still going to come back to you. Because they're there because you're supplying the news that they want to read because of the tribalism.
In this case, in the form of Buzzfeed News. But then there were tens of thousands of other people, most notably politicians, who decided to spring on top of this, I think, prematurely and excessively in a way that they didn't have to do. None of this is going away. The special counsel is going to have a report coming out in due time. People can get a night's sleep before they start pounding on this in the way that they have. And I think that's just a good lesson for all of us to think about going forward.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because in the world of competition, as it is set up, whether it's the media, whatever it is, you've got to stand out. And first mover advantage is vitally important. And even if you get it wrong, if your name gets out there, it's okay. It is. Because the people will make a snap judgment and they'll move on. More often than not, you could just write a headline. People aren't going to read any of the stuff anyways because they're there momentarily. They are. Everybody wants just the Cliff Notes version of something. And if you could spin it the way that I like it, we'll make it work. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. It is Martin Luther King Day today. And a lot of people have the day off. We're going to be talking about some of the stuff that's going on. Speeches being given, marches around the country. There was marches this past weekend as well. The hats, the whole 9 yards. They were out in full display. And there was a march that took place. And once again, it shows you that we care about only certain things. And we will make that snap judgment based on something. And when all of the facts come out, maybe, just maybe, even if we were wrong, it doesn't matter because as long as we're on the right side of whatever we feel our morals are, that it's a victory. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. That there be your Twitter. AMAC. Comes time in your life, right, where you look around and you recognize and value services that make your life a little bit easier and save you money. You're at that point. When you value companies, look out for your best interests and align your beliefs. That's why I'm a huge supporter of AMAC. I want my listeners 50 and older to understand something. You can take advantage right now of a free 1-year membership. AMAC is focused on protecting the interests of mature Americans. AMAC offers alternative perspectives in issues like Social Security reform, protecting our borders with common sense immigration laws, and fixing Medicare. We're living in a time with, whether you like it or not, huge companies out there and organizations are out there lobbying on your behalf. So you better be sure there's somebody out there supporting you and your beliefs. AARP is not lobbying on behalf of independent voters or common sense people like you and me. No. But AMAC is. Absolutely 100%. They're out there doing it for you, and they're offering an opportunity to join for free for 1 year. The membership includes everything from retail, restaurant, hotel, and travel discounts to, up to 40% off movie tickets and Disneyland, SeaWorld, Legoland, things of that nature. It's incredible, and it's not going to cost you a penny. They want your credit card. 1 year free membership. Go to amac.us/Chad. That's amac.us/Chad. No cost, no tricks, no credit card required. Free membership for 1 year. Go to amac.us/Chad, or you can call 888-355-1668. That's 888-355-1668. It's the Chad Benson Show.
No fake outrage here, just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
Meet Elijah Priestley.
I am very excited.
At 11 years old, he's the youngest person ever to receive a full scholarship to Southern University, a historically black college in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Elijah is starting his first semester as a physics major. Southern Vice Chancellor Mancia Finch.
He's more than just a student. He's more than just a prodigy. And he's going to fit in very well, as he already does here at Southern University.
Elijah's already an inspiration on and off campus, whose words about education show a wisdom beyond his years.
Act like your life depends on it, because it does.
Look at that. How about that? What were you doing at 11? I could tell you I wasn't going to college. What grade are you in when you're 11 now? Is that 4th grade? 5th grade? I don't even know. He's going to college. A couple weeks ago, a kid's graduating this year from Harvard, and he's graduating from high school. He's done them simultaneously because he didn't want to give up the high school experience, because he wanted to be able to enjoy that high school experience. And I think that's really cool. But my goodness, what do you do when you get out and you're like 17? People are like, you're going to go to college? I'm like, I already got a master's degree. What do I need to go to college for? And then if you don't become everything that you think you should, because remember, you're 11 years old, right? So if you're going to college at 11, my assumption is you're rather intelligent. What if at 32, you're like, you work part-time. You're like, I'm working part-time at a bar, and, I flip hamburgers, a couple nights a week. And it's like, oh, you really weren't all you were cracked up to be there, were you? Yeah, I didn't really have the motivation I thought. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Man, what a day of football yesterday. People still talking about it. The numbers overnight are massive. CBS and Fox cleaned up. Despite all of the I'll never watch football and burn everything down again BS, the reality is it's still huge. And it was a big game. Both of them get into the Super Bowl. So Super Bowl 53 has the Rams and this guy.
You play on the road, it's going to be tough. And, what travels is running the ball, playing tough. And that's good in any weather, any condition, any environment, any stadium. That was a big part of our game.
It's good to see Tom Brady has a chance to play in the Super Bowl. It really is good to see that. You know what? I was talking last night in a weird way. So when you win the AFC Championship game, you get the Lamar Hunt Trophy. Lamar Hunt owned the Kansas City Chiefs. They haven't been in the Super Bowl since Super Bowl IV. His son Clark now runs everything, and he would have had a chance to get his father's namesake trophy had they won. But they never got a chance because Tom Terrific does what Tom Terrific does. And I don't know. I don't know if they're going to change the rules and in overtime in the playoffs give each team a chance to possess the ball, regardless of whether or not a touchdown was scored. But when the biggest play turns out to be potentially the coin flip in a situation like that, yeah, that's maybe something to think about. But a hell of a game, hell of a season, right? One more game to go. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Speaking of high schoolers, high school issue took place this week at the March for Life. And, of course, everybody judged. But did they judge too quick? Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent in thoughts and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The most posted video of the incident shows Kentucky high school student Nick Sandman wearing a red Make America Great Again cap and in a staring contest with 65-year-old Native American drummer Nathan Phillips. But there was a third element, the Black Hebrew Israelites holding their own rally.
It's a bunch of homosexuals.
Phillips says he was trying to prevent any violence between that group and the high schoolers. Nick Sandman says in a statement that he and his classmates were the ones targeted for abuse at the Lincoln Memorial.
But that's not the way it was played out on social media. On social media, it played out in a much different way. Because all that anybody saw was this picture of this kid who looked like he was a smug white kid smiling in front of a Native American. He was pounding on his drum, boop, boop, boop. And that's all anybody saw. And it was, he surrounded this guy, all of these kids, with their MAGA hats on. And oh my God, look at this here. This was awful. But by the time, much like with Buzzfeed and everything else, that everything got out as far as the truth went, it didn't matter. This Nate Phillips guy was on earlier talking about kind of what he saw. And remember, these are high school kids who have gone to the March for Life. They're from Kentucky. They're from a all-boys Catholic school. They went to a March for Life, which is about 300,000 people there. There's nobody paid any attention to this weekend because they weren't wearing hats and resisting the president. So they went, and this guy talked about the fact that they didn't surround, it originally was, they kind of surrounded us, but wait a minute, he walked up to them first.
I hear that this other group is called the Black Israelites, maybe, or something like that. Mm-hmm. They had set up right at the edge of our permitted area and started just saying things and instigating. And so I told our folks that we're still there, and so just ignore them. And we did, and we were accomplishing that just fine until these other kids the March for Rights Life had just gotten done.
Yeah, so that was part of this young kid. And, these guys are screaming all kinds of horrific things at these Black Israelites and people that have talked about these guys say that if you remember the Westboro Baptist Church, remember how bad they were? These guys are worse. These Black Israelites who are, and there weren't a lot of them, but they were screaming all kinds of crap and just boom. And a lot of these marches. So you've got the March for Life going on, but you've got all these other things going on. You've got the Women's March and all. So there's a lot of stuff happening as a convergence of all kinds of things going on. And you just have the usual run-of-the-mill people that are there protesting on a day-to-day basis because that's what happens. But none of that mattered because all that mattered was smug little white kid with MAGA hat and several other people that were white happened to surround this guy who wandered to them first. And he was just smiling because, that's what, but before any of that happened, you had other people who were being obnoxious.
At first, the Catholic students there for the March for Life are still in small numbers, but more and more show up, watching but not engaging. The small group of men continue taunting them.
A bunch of incest babies.
See how you got these pompous come down here in the middle of a native rally with they dirty
Make America Great hat again on.
Sandman says the rhetoric was startling. Because we were being loudly attacked and taunted in public, a student asked one of our teacher chaperones for permission to begin school spirit chants to counter the hateful things.
Yeah. So, and that's what happens, right? And then all of a sudden, here comes this Nathan Phillips.
2 minutes later, you hear a drum beat. That is Nathan Phillips, an Omaha tribe elder, and another drummer. Phillips says it was their attempt to thwart potential violence. The kids danced to it. They began chanting along.
I realized
like
I had put myself in a really dangerous situation. There's here's a group of people who were angry at somebody else, and I put myself in front of that.
Yeah. So, but it turned out to be something that ended up going viral because the thing that was taken and the videos that were seen had nothing to do with anything else. How often do we hear about this, right? Whenever we see a police officer or something happening involving law enforcement or something like that, what do we see? We see the last 30 seconds, not the preceding 3 minutes that led to something, and we make a snap judgment. And then by the time that all of the information plays itself out, it doesn't matter. We've all moved on from it. The judgment has been made, and in many cases, the damage has been done.
Phillips, a Vietnam veteran, walks around. Other students avoid him until you see him come face to face with the student who has now gone viral. In his statement, the student says he was the one trying to de-escalate the situation, not Phillips. I believe that by remaining motionless and calm, I was helping to diffuse the situation. I realized everyone had cameras and that perhaps a group of adults was trying to provoke a group of teenagers into a larger conflict.
Yeah. And he just kept, he was smiling. He was smiling. That was it, right? He was smiling, and he didn't want this thing to escalate. And he also wanted to show that it wasn't going to be intimidating, just smiling along the way. And even people who finally found out the truth of what was going on, their whole thing was, well, you got to understand something. It was a white privileged kid wearing a MAGA hat. He was getting the kind of hate that he deserves because in the end, a lot of this is all his fault. People will justify it the way that they want to justify it. That's just it. They'll justify it the way that they want to justify it. They can look at it and say, they'll find a way to spin it to fit the things that they need to justify their belief. Pictures may tell 1,000 quadrillion, kabillion words, but it doesn't tell you the whole story. It tells you a portion of a story, not the whole story. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. It is Martin Luther King Day, and today Kamala Harris made an announcement.
The day we celebrate Dr. King is a very special day for all of us as Americans, and I'm honored to be able to make my announcement on the day that we commemorate him.
Yeah. Does she have a chance? Yeah, she does. I think she absolutely has a chance, and people are starting to jump into it. I mean, this is 2019. And you think, God, it just seems like, no, this is a full-time, there's really only about a year and a half where people don't jockey for positions and where the president does presidential things before he or she has to start running again. And I say she because that's eventually going to happen. So that's what happens. You got to get into it now. You have to start trying to position yourself in a way to be a front runner. So, and especially if you're a Democrat right now, because there's so many of them out there who are getting ready to throw their hats into the rings. And as we've seen with this last election cycle for the president, that you want to be on the big stage, not the little stage.
Former Vice President Joe Biden and former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg are both subjects of 2020 speculation. They spoke at the same MLK event in Washington, D.C. Monday. Here's Bloomberg.
Whatever the next year brings for Joe and me, I know we'll both keep our eyes on the real prize, and that is electing a Democrat to the White House in 2020 and getting our country back on track.
Bloomberg registered as a Democrat last year and has not shot down questions about whether or not he will run for president.
I don't know about Bloomberg, but I do believe that Biden is going to make the decision very, very soon. And then you've got Howard Schultz, who was threatening to run. He's the guy who's the CEO of Starbucks, who has a ton of money. And he's threatening to run as an independent. And the Democrats are begging him, don't do it. And I'm saying, do it. I kind of like the guy. I think he'd be interesting. I do. I think he'd be very interesting. But the Democrats are worried because they feel that he's going to siphon away votes. So whoever runs, it's going to be a situation where you're going to look at very much like when you had Ross Perot and all, and Bush and Clinton. He'll be interesting. He's going to be very interesting if he decides to run. But it's here. And Kamala Harris is going to be a player in this. And she is a person who she's going to be definitely a player. She's a person of color. That matters for the left. She's uber progressive for a younger generation. That matters. She is, she's got a good story, which always matters. She can bring it, and she's going to be a player. How much of a player? Depends how many other people get into it. But you'll hear a bunch of other names thrown out there. Those people are getting their names in the mix because they want to say, I ran for president. I need $10,000 a speech. Mike Huckabee runs for president because it helps his personal appearance fees, it helps him get on television, and it helps him sell books. He has no chance of ever running for president and winning it. But it does help there. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. We are no closer. We are day 31 into this. I don't even know what to call it anymore. Shutdown, I guess, is what it is, but it's not. It's stupidity. We're not fighting over anything that can't be solved. We're not fighting over. We're fighting over something that can be solved. We're literally fighting over a name of what it is you want to call it. I think last week Trump says you guys call it peaches if you want to, the wall. We're fighting over just something that Americans. People say Americans don't want. No, Americans want comprehensive immigration reform. And for a lot of Americans, they want certain areas to be, they want a wall. They want something. Do they want the entire thing walled up? No. But we're 31 days in now, and we're at the point where I just, who's going to blink first? And nobody's blinking anytime soon because there's no reason to. The pressure is not there enough right now to blink. Trump offered up something. They said, nah, we don't want any part of this. But there are moderate Democrats who are like, I'd like to just get this thing done. And we kind of agree with you. There should be a wall in certain areas, on the border with Mexico, that we need to take better care of it. And just putting a drone out there and a homing pigeon and a guy with binoculars really isn't the way to do it. It's like a bunch of home security systems. That's not the way to do it. So we do need some more. But it's got to be comprehensive. For me, it's got to be comprehensive. Ports, visas, all of it. This is a symbol. But it's got to be more than just this. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. That there be your Twitter. Hey, costly repairs, don't worry about it anymore. Extended vehicle protection from CarShield. You get that, and you can breathe easier. Say your car has 120,000 miles on it. You no longer have a manufacturer warranty. You're thinking to yourself, what do I do if my car goes? Don't worry about it. That's what CarShield comes in. 24/7 roadside assistance. A rental car for free while your car's in the shop. You choose the shop. They get them paid directly. My friend just had her car fixed. She paid a small deductible. They took care of the rest. It was over $1,900. And for 5 days, she had a rental car. Boom. $2 billion in claims. That's what they paid out. They're ready to help you. What are you waiting for? Save yourself thousands in future car repairs. Get covered by the ultimate in extended vehicle protection. Do what I did. Call 800-CARS-6100. Mention code Benson or carshield.com, code Benson. Saves you 10% right there. Plenty of programs. You can look and see what you want. It's a great way to check it out. Go to carshield.com, use code Benson, save you 10%, or you can call them directly, 800-CARS-6100. Mention code Benson. A deductible may apply. At Chad Benson Show, Twitter, ChadBenson. Got your useless fact of the day straight ahead. Chad Benson Show.
Feel free to punk this punk rocker anytime of the day or night. Reach Chad on Twitter at Chad Benson Show and on Instagram at Chad Benson Show. And oh yeah, the Chad Benson Show on Facebook too. Punk that.
So the idiot who jumped off a cruise line, you guys remember this ding dong? Royal Caribbean Cruise. He's a 27-year-old guy, like everything else, wants to make everything go viral. Nick Navadev of Vancouver, him and his friends were hanging out, and they were in the Royal Caribbean, chilling, relaxing, maxing in the Bahamas. And they decided it would be hilarious, and apparently he really did, is if he jumped into the ocean 11 stories. And he did. They posted on Instagram. And guess what, kids? Him and his friends were kicked off of the ship. He said he wasn't injured, seriously injured at all, but he said he couldn't walk for 3 days, basically. He struggled. He were kicked off, and not just him, all of his friends, they were, boom, kicked out. They each had to pay $200 to get home. I'd have been pissed. But he said, hey, look, you know what? This was stupid. I should never have done this. I was still feeling the effects of alcohol. I don't want this to inspire anybody. It was dangerous. I didn't think it through, and this wasn't a joke. But his buddy's like, man, this is stupid. I can't believe they handled it this way, Royal Caribbean. He jumps from those heights before, and we didn't really care about the consequences, so why should we care now? We just wanted something to go viral. Idiots are just, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. You can't. You just sit here and you shake your head and you say, how? People don't get it because it's not the right thing to do. But because of the want to get yourself on camera, viral, in front of hundreds, thousands, millions of people continue to do dumb things, whether it's the Bird Box Challenge or the Tide Pod Challenge or, hey, I got a funny thing. I'm going to throw myself off a cruise ship to 100 plus feet below. This will be great. Not thinking. What'd you think was going to happen? That you jumped in and they're going to be like, oh, get him back on the ship and we'll give him a high five. Idiots.
Bon Jovi sang about workers impacted by labor issues in their 1986 hit Livin' on a Prayer. Monday, John Bon Jovi's New Jersey restaurant is providing free lunches to any federal employee affected by the government shutdown. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy's Family Foundation is also supporting JBJ's Soul Kitchen's lunch. The Red Bank restaurant says those in attendance will also learn about additional support and resources available.
And Kiss is apparently giving what's the name of their restaurant, Phil? Is it Rock and Brews?
Rock and Brews, yeah.
Yeah, they're at restaurants. There are a few other places. I was telling Phil. So out of the corner of my eye, I see that, on the little Chiron thing, Paul Stanley and Kiss are giving away, free food to TSA agents, blah, 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 and most of their restaurants are in airports. And I'm like, oh, that's not an attractive woman. And I turn and look and I was like, oh, it's Paul Stanley from Kiss. Chad, you're so judgmental. Man, that guy's had some work. Don't tell me he's not had work. I don't even want to hear it. He's had some work. He has. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. You could tweet at us. Love hearing from you. Got your useless fact of the day. I might screw up his name. Forgive me for this, kids. Shigeru Miyamoto. He's the maker of Mario Brothers, Donkey Kong, and many others. He is so important to Nintendo that he is not allowed to ride his bicycle to work. They put that in his clause in his contract because they don't want anything to happen to him. Think about that. What's in your contract clause? I hope you get hit by a bike or a car or a comet. Have a solid rest of your day. We'll be back to do it again mañana. Night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent in thoughts and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Our immigration system has been badly broken for a very long time. Over the decades, many presidents and many lawmakers have come and gone, and no real progress has been made. We are now living with the consequences, and they are tragic, brought about by decades of political stalemate, partisan gridlock, and national neglect. There is a humanitarian and security crisis on our southern border that requires urgent action.
Yeah, it was kind of I thought it was going to be more. I thought he was going to declare a state of emergency. He didn't. I think he wants to try to... I think he genuinely wants to get something done where he feels like he just doesn't, just go around everybody and do something. I think he genuinely wants to. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be right. But I think he does. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I do not. Do I think the reality is that we're in a situation where both sides are sitting here saying, nope, we're going to stand our ground and that's it, period, case closed?
He's just playing politics, and this is a bad deal. It does not do the things that would move this country forward in a productive way.
Yeah, Kirsten Gillibrand, she's just awful. She is. But everybody's playing politics. You think Chuck Schumer's playing politics? You think Nancy Pelosi's playing? Nancy Pelosi's answer before it ever came out of his mouth was no. That's not something you can negotiate with. For Trump, he's finding that he's painted himself into a certain corner and he's got some issues to deal with when it comes to this. Because guess what, kids? When you get into that position where you are you've got your base that is so staunch, wall, will not accept anything other, throw everybody out, don't even talk about letting anybody stay here. How dare you float the idea of this?
3 years of legislative relief for 700,000 DACA recipients brought here unlawfully by their parents at a young age many years ago. This extension will give them access to work permits, Social Security numbers, and protection from deportation, most importantly.
700,000? What? Yeah. DACA wasn't 700,000, but now you're offering 700,000? But in everybody's mind, they hear, oh, amnesty. A
3-year extension of temporary protected status, or TPS. This means that 300,000 immigrants whose protected status is facing expiration will now have 3 more years of certainty so that Congress can work on a larger immigration deal, which everybody wants, Republicans and Democrats.
So let's do the math. 700,000 plus 300,000. Now, it's only 3 years. It's temporary. It's not a forever thing. But the whole thought process is within the next 3 years, they get something done. Here's something else to think about. He wants $5.7 million. That doesn't build all that he wants. A year from now, we're going to be in the same situation where he's going to be asking for money. They're going to be denying him. There's going to be a threat of a shutdown or potentially a shutdown, and we'll be going through this goat rodeo again, potentially. And then you've got the extremes. You've got the extremes that, guess what? Both want zero part of negotiation. They want zero part of olive branch. They want zero part of giving anything in whatsoever. Nope, not going to do it. Not zero. Nope, don't even think about doing it, Nancy. Don't even think about doing it, Donald. They've painted themselves into a corner that small amount of vocal, loud base will not let them leave, and Trump's a huge part of that.
The reason this is all happening is the president felt boxed in by his base. He almost signed off on a deal that would have extended funding for the government before the end of the year without any money for the wall. His base revolted. Conservative commentators basically coaxed him back to the view that a government shutdown was worth it. Now, many of them view extending protected status for refugees or for the Dreamers as amnesty. And now the president has to explain that, no, I'm not giving anything. So it puts him in a tough spot.
And it's not amnesty, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't, because all they hear is it's amnesty. But it's not. But that's what they hear. That's all they hear is, it's amnesty, it's amnesty. So this big thing over the weekend turned out to be, I think, a first step to, I tried everything. I tried to do it in a way. I tried to give in. I tried to negotiate. I tried to do something. And they just weren't having it. And so I made the decision to do whatever it is that he's going to do. But you saw the fallout when he talked about this, because the Ann Coulters of the world and the people on the extreme rights were having none of this and have already, basically they were sharpening their knives for him as well. And he understands that. And this is not good. It's not a good situation. And it doesn't move the ball forward. It doesn't. Think about it if you had a if you're in a relationship, if it is always your way or always somebody else's way, that's not a good relationship. If there's no give or take, if there's no, you know what, you pick the place we go to eat and I get to pick the movie, if it's my way, and if it's your birthday, that's one thing, but come on. That's not a successful way to do it. And the same thing, could you imagine running a business like this? It's ridiculous. It really, really is ridiculous. But this right now is the world that we live in. This is what we find ourselves in, and it's not getting better at all. It's not. It's not getting better at all.
The press today, the mainstream media, the anti-Trump folks spent the entire day speculating about an unsubstantiated story that was anonymously sourced. I'm old enough to remember when this story would have never seen the light of day. The press is making itself look very, very badly, and it's going to be very difficult for this media to restore any credibility it once had before.
Yeah, Jason Riley, he was on Fox talking about the whole Buzzfeed thing, and Buzzfeed over the weekend continued to double down that they have the truth when it comes to this story of Trump told Cohen to lie.
And this is going to be borne out, Brian. This story is accurate.
What if the sources are just wrong?
They're not.
Not intentionally, not trying to hurt you, but just what if they're wrong?
You know, they're not. They're not. I'm confident.
Now, I've said over the weekend, with Cohen, a guy who is seen to lie to protect his own ass on numerous occasions, what if he lied to Mueller? Mueller's team came out and said, this is a bunch of crap, don't believe this BuzzFeed story. And they didn't, that's what the BuzzFeed's the editor-in-chief wants to know, okay, what part is?
They're obviously some of the best lawyers in America, and they are clearly referring to something, and we hope that they will tell us what they are referring to. I mean, I think at this point, we would hope that they would clarify that. I mean, I think that would be the responsible thing for them to do.
But what if Cohen lied to Mueller? Would that be out of the realm of possibility? No. What if Mueller decided to share information with certain parts of the people that are working within his group and did this to find out if there are certain leaks coming out and everybody got a little something to leak, and the one that did, they may be looking at? You don't know. One thing I do know about this is we will never know the entire story of this. No matter whatever happens with Trump and Russia, and we're never going to know it all. Because too many players were involved who are so full of crap. There's too many moving pieces, and no matter how many rocks you turn over, we're never going to know the entire story. And if you are in a certain base or tribe, you're going to believe what you want to believe because your mind is already made up, and anything else outside of whatever it is that supports your belief system is the only thing that will never penetrate your belief system. So it's just meaningless. And for the rest of us, we'll look at it and say, maybe some of it's true. Maybe some of it is as truthful as you could find out. But we're never going to know the entire story. It's just not going to happen. Just not going to happen. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Last night, it was awful. Everybody knew it.
Frustrating, just getting off the phone with the league office. They blew the call, and there are a lot of opportunities, though, but that call puts it 1st and 10. We're on an E3 plays, and it's a game-changing call.
Sean Payton last night talking about the pass interference. We're going to discuss more of this and what the NFL potentially could do. Ratings were through the roof. Watch both games were very exciting. And now some people are, they're saying they want this. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. Steven Pinker's going to join us. Smart guy. Smarter than I'll ever hope to be. But he's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Harvard professor, New York Times bestselling author. In fact, Bill Gates, that guy, pretty rich, pretty successful guy, said this book that he's just written is his favorite book in the world. We're going to talk to him about the world at large. Should we be optimistic or pessimistic about where we're headed? 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show, Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
irreverent? Yeah. So what? It's the Chad Benson Show.
An apparent pass interference penalty against the Los Angeles Rams late in Sunday's NFC Championship game was not called. That angered the New Orleans Saints, and according to head coach Sean Payton, may have cost the team a trip to the Super Bowl.
That call puts in 1st and 10. We're on an E3 plays, and it's a game-changing call.
A New Jersey sportsbooks agreed, citing its good karma payout. PointsBet says it will refund any point spread and money line bets for the Saints. The company did not say how much that would cost them.
That was pretty cool, but it was, look, I watched the game. I watched both of them in their entirety. They were both great games for different reasons. I think both the Rams and the Saints each let opportunities get by where they, especially the Saints. In the end, the call was awful. It was not a good call at all, and it was a missed call for a pass interference, and it is, it sucks. It's horrible. In saying that, the Saints could have put the game away on numerous occasions and didn't. That's the reality of that. And now going forward, are we going to have a different way that football is looked at? Because we have all of this technology. Cameras are everywhere. I mean, we've got goal line cameras. We've got cameras on the field. We've got the guys we've got the drone / pulley above everything. We have cameras everywhere. Are we going to do something different this year when they go and sit down and talk about what's going to happen with rules changes and, in particular, technology?
Because of this, as a result of this, there will be a lot of talk about potentially reviewing penalties or game-changing type penalties. It's just like all the reviews that go up into the booth within the, inside of 2 minutes. Maybe that's something that will happen in regards to certain penalties as well that are game-changing type penalties, which obviously that one was today.
Yeah, so we'll see. But the numbers for Fox and CBS were through the roof. And on the other side of it, kids, oh, yes, it's good to see finally something good happen to this poor guy.
To get to this point is extremely difficult. They've faced some challenges. They got a great team, great running back, great offense, great defense. So well coached. It's going to be a great game.
Tom Brady. Man, it's horrible. He's got to go home at night. And he's like, oh, God, I got the old ball and chain at home. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it, but he does. So it's this chance. I think it's this third time in a row to the Super Bowl, 5 of the last 6. This will be his chance at his 6th Super Bowl. I think it's fair to say that it's no longer a situation where is he the most successful quarterback of all time. I think that we can put that to rest a long time ago. But when you look at just how successful that team is in general, that is insane. It really just maybe they can go, hey, government, see the way that we do things. We don't always get along, right? We don't, but we got to make sacrifices at times, and there's give and takes, and there's guys out here that we take, and they don't want to do certain things, but we get them to buy into those things because it's for the betterment of the team, and it's all about the end result, which is for the betterment for the fans and everybody else. Maybe that would be good for the government. I doubt that, but it would be good. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Today, MLK Day. People out doing what they do in the Democratic Party, which is going out and talking about division. And, of course, this president.
We now have a president of the United States who is a racist.
I listened to him, right? So he says that. And you listen to everybody talk and you say to yourself, well, how? Wait, what?
We have a president intentionally, purposely, is trying to divide us up by the color of our skin, by our gender, by the country we came from, by our religion.
Which is, look, can Trump be divisive? Absolutely. Can the left be divisive? But when it comes to dividing up, the left does it better than anybody. Absolutely anybody. What's the color of your skin? Want to know that. What's your sexuality? Want to know that. What's your sexual identification? Want to know that. What is your religion? How can I put you in certain boxes that make sure that you're either a part of a victims group, part of the intersectionality of the world that we're trying to put together here? They love that. They do. They absolutely love that. I sit here and I scratch my head. I said, really? That's where you're going with that one today? Of course. Of course, you got Kamala Harris, who came out and said she's going to be running for president. You've got Biden, that I think is going to make – I wouldn't be surprised if it's by the end of this week or next week that he makes his decision, and people are starting to say, well, he's leaning towards it. And I could see that. I could absolutely see that Biden will be leaning towards running for president because I think he thinks he's got a shot. And I don't know. For this, you might have had a shot 2 years ago, but now with the way that things are and the AOCs and the Kamala Harrises and the progressiveness of the party and the fact that you're a cisgendered white male privileged person, I think that right there may have sailed for you. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at you. Many of you tweeting in saying, yes, they got robbed, but did you see this? Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff. Lots of that stuff. A lot of calls were missed. It's a tough game. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Steven Pinker joins us straight ahead. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent in thoughts and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
In a world where we need more intelligent people actually talking, this guy is uber intelligent. From Harvard University. Harvard, that's right, Harvard. Professor of psychology, best-selling, New York Times best-selling author. His newest book, Enlightenment Now, The Case for Reason, Science, Humanism, and Progress. And in fact, how good is this book? Guy named Bill Gates says it's his new favorite book of all time. Joining us now is Steven Pinker. We appreciate you coming on today. And your book is so interesting. And I've seen you give a couple TED Talks, and I've seen you on with Rogan and a few other people. And as I go through the book, as I read it, I laugh at the world that we live in nowadays because we are living in a world of knee-jerk reactions. People who fail to look at statistics, and everybody thinks the sky is falling, and that is nowhere near the case.
That is right. The view of the world that you get from the news has to be different from the world that you get from data and facts, because news reports stuff that happens, not stuff that doesn't happen. So if there's a country that's at peace, you don't have a journalist saying, I'm reporting live from a country that's at peace. Or if there's a city that hasn't been attacked by terrorists, that's not news. Now, if you think about it, if more and more of the world is at peace, but there's still some wars that go on, well, those wars make page one. The countries that are at peace don't. And you can have no idea that the amount of war in the world has been shrinking. Because as long as it isn't zero, there's always stuff to report on the news.
You know, and that's just it. And then you see like what took place over this past weekend with the whole Buzzfeed thing, and then yesterday that kid and that viral video, and we start even questioning the news, what's real and what's not real, and that's not a good place for us to be. Because we want to look at the news and think they're right, but the reality is in many ways nowadays is that's the old saying, Stephen. If it bleeds, it leads, and that's what catches the headlines.
That's right. And it's not just disasters and bloodshed. It's also outrage. The things that spread are often ones that make us feel proud of our tribe and all the more superior to the opposite tribe. So we treat politics the way we treat sports. Anything that's good for our side, we celebrate.
Absolutely. He's a New York Times bestselling author. His newest book, Enlighten Me Now, The Case for Reason, Science, Humanism, and Progress. We talk about progress, and I look at progress, and we've made so much progress. But the fact is the more progress we have, the more progressives out there say, well, we don't really have progress because there's money in all of these isms that are out there, and you don't want to get rid of all those isms because that's your livelihood.
Yeah, there are people who, it's not just money, but people don't care only about money. They also care about reputation. Everyone wants to be on the side of the angels. And so people do stake their identity as good people, as prophets, on particular assumptions. And there is a kind of left-wing denial of progress. As I say, progressives hate progress, although there's also a right-wing version of it, too, because there are factions on the right that say, well, things have gone downhill since the Enlightenment replaced religion and the stability of traditional society with everyone doing their own thing. It got even worse in the 1960s. We've got to make our country great again. So there is a kind of backward-looking, anti-progressive strain on the right as well.
When you look at the world right now, I mean, you go through the statistics, it's all right in front of us. It's, things are better than they've ever been, and they continue to do so. But as far as we go, where's the place for, we call ourselves the alt middle here because, we have some progressive ideas, I guess you'd say. We have some conservative ideas. We just think we're just normal people who deal with each issue as it comes to us. Is there a place for that anymore, or is just because that 15% of insanity on both sides get to control the conversation, is that just going away?
I love the expression alt middle. It's not. It's shrinking. It has not gone away. So a majority of the country still consider themselves to be centrist, but it is a shrinking majority. That is, there are more and more people who are across the board left and across the board right. So both things are true. I agree with you that I think we do need to treat issues on a case-by-case basis. Look at the evidence, look at the data, look at other countries, look at across the states. What works, what doesn't work. None of us is enough of a genius to just figure it out from just sitting in our armchair. We got to gather data and look to see which policies do what we want them to do.
Absolutely. Talking to Steven Pinker, Enlightenment Now, the case for reason, science, humanism, and progress. He's also a professor at that little school over there, psychology, at Harvard. Maybe some of you out there listening have heard of it. I sit here and I listen to you, and like I say, I've seen you, and it's so funny because the tribalism that we live in nowadays, we no longer, I always say, people nowadays, they don't want information, they want affirmation when it comes to their news. They don't want to hear any kind of challenging to their tribe's belief, because we have now cloaked ourselves in politics in the red and the blue or whatever it is, whether you're a climate denier or a climate change person or what, it's not a good place for us to be. How do so many people who are in that situation overcome that? How do we get people to understand that it's not a personal thing? Here's just the statistics. Stop taking everything so personally.
Yeah, I think that is the key. If we are going to make things better, we've got to continue that attitude. So one thing is we've got to depoliticize things as much as possible. If your goal is to fight against climate change, then you've got to look at what the possible solutions are, and don't smush that together with overhauling capitalism or reducing economic growth or seeking racial justice. I mean, whatever you think about those goals, it's not the same as preventing the planet from overheating. So just be clear as to what problem you're trying to solve, and try not to put it in one tribe or another by bundling it with other issues that get people all riled up. That's why a lot of people, by the way, in the climate movement think that the worst thing that ever happened was when Al Gore put out An Inconvenient Truth, because he kind of turned it into a left-wing issue. And it shouldn't be a left-wing issue. It's just a strictly factual matter as to whether human activity is changing the climate. But if people start to think of it as a political issue, then their opinions are set before they begin on both sides of the issue. So we need to be aware of that flaw in human nature. We tend to see things in terms of our teams. It's okay if those are sports teams. It's not so okay if those teams are determine how we run the country and what will happen to the world.
You said sports teams, and I've always said this. To me, sports is the greatest bringing together, because you go to a stadium, the person next to you could be, they could be gay, they could be trans, they could be, but you guys are you're pulling for the same thing. You want your team to win the whole 9 yards. And now we've gotten to the point where I feel the same thing is happening, but not in a good way. When I don't hate the other, yesterday I'm a huge Patriots fan. I don't hate the Chiefs. I was bummed that they didn't get a chance to get the ball and have a chance to at least try and tie the game or win the game in overtime. But we somewhere along the line have lost that. And it drives me crazy, because we're all in this thing together. Whether you believe in climate change or you don't, we should still treat the globe and the world that we live in a better place. But we just can't. How do we? Is human nature always been this way, or is this even worse now because of social media and because of the way that we get riled up?
Yeah, human nature has certainly always been that way, which is why we needed to have a scientific revolution and enlightenment in the first place 250 years ago. And there's never a period in which everyone just went with the facts and demanded scientific data. There are some strands and factions and groups that can find each other on social media and on the internet. So you have better organized opposition to a lot of the scientific consensus, such as the people who think that vaccines cause autism, total nonsense, but they can form a group and find each other on the internet now. So we do need to just have it as part of our mindset of being a reasonable, educated, rational person, that you have to be prepared to let your mind be changed by the facts. That's just got to be what it means to be a decent person, that you don't make up your mind based on what all your neighbors believe, what the authorities believe, but you've got to look at the best data, the best evidence, and realize you might be wrong in your beliefs.
That's so hard for people to, Steve, that's so hard for people to do because, I can admit when I'm wrong. I have no problem with that. The problem is I think when I see people is they wrap up their belief is who they are, not that, well, I got the data wrong and that's not who I am. I just got the data wrong. And we don't do that anymore. It's now, if you feel like you're wrong, you feel like everything that you believe in is crumbling around you and that somehow you're a lesser human.
Yes. I don't know if that's changed. I think that's just the way people are put together. And the whole mindset of science and the Enlightenment and reason and rationality is, we realize it's amazing we know anything. We're just, we're primates. We have brains that are, related to the brains of chimpanzees. It's amazing that we got to the moon and that we discovered the theory of relativity and built cathedrals and all the wonderful stuff. But to do that, we had to put aside a lot of our primitive instincts, including thinking that we are infallible and omniscient and that our side is always right. And the rules of science, like the rules of democracy, are basically workarounds for the limitations of human nature. We all want to be right, of course. You can't blame anyone for wanting to be right. But if you play by the rules of a certain game, like in science, no matter how right you think you are, you got to make your argument. You got to show your data. You got to submit your paper to a journal, and then it gets trashed by peer review people that you don't know who they are, but they know as much as you do, and they're the ones who determine whether your stuff gets published. Likewise, in a democracy, someone disagrees with you, you're not allowed to throw him in jail. You're not allowed to kill him. He gets a vote, you get a vote. You've got to debate what's the best policy, and you don't get to impose it just by sheer force or tradition or authority or prestige. So we can set up, even though we're not completely rational as a species, but we can set up rules of games that make it so that the truth will come out in the long run, even though none of us is smart enough to come up with it by ourselves.
Well, he's super smart. He is a Harvard professor of psychology, and he's a best-selling author. In fact, my new favorite book of all time, says Bill Gates, and the new book is Enlightenment Now, The Case for Reason, Science, Humanism, and Progress. Stephen Pinker, appreciate you joining us today. You have yourself a wonderful day, and thanks again.
You too. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks. At Chad Benson Show, Twitter, ChadBenson. I like having smart people on. He's a smart dude. Really smart guy, like extra smart. Like you think, oh, these people are smart. No, this is one of those guys where you're like, that guy's really smart. Like, he gets it. He understands it. And he's right. And he's one of those ones that he's so smart that even some of the stuff that the left doesn't like that he says that's controversial, they look at him and say, yeah, you know what, we're going to take a pass at that one. Do you know what I mean? It's like one of those things where other people they may challenge this guy. They say, nah. Now, check out the book, Enlightenment Now, The Case for Reason, Science, Humanism, and Progress, at Chad Benson Show, Twitter, ChadBenson. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Running with scissors sounds great compared to this.
Say
Gotti is up for a Razzie for the worst film of the year.
I will build something that nobody can destroy.
It has a 0% fresh rating from critics on Rotten Tomatoes, and star John Travolta is also up for a Razzie for worst performance. Joining Gotti in the worst film category are Melissa McCarthy's The Happy Time Murders, Helen Mirren's Winchester, and two of the biggest financial bombs of 2018, Holmes and Watson and Robin Hood. And a nomination for President Trump for Worst Actor for playing himself in the documentaries Death of a Nation and Fahrenheit 11/9.
I hate some of these people, but I'd never kill them.
Jason Nathanson.
I have seen, you know what's weird? I saw Watson and Holmes. It wasn't the worst movie I'd ever seen, but I've seen none of those. Normally, I'm the guy that sees all the bad movies and none of the stuff that gets nominated for the Academy Awards. But this time, I can say this. I've seen I did not see Gotti, and what I have been told by people that have seen it is that it is so awful, that it is so bad, that you have to see it just because. And I'm like, really? Is it that bad? Oh, they're like, it's that bad. And I'm like, okay. I could see myself then watching it. I could, because I'm that kind of person. I heard it's just awful, though. Goodness me, that right there. You have to wonder, like, I always wonder. I look around and I look and I think, okay, so how, like, Nicolas Cage always works, right? He's always working. And you can bet that if he makes 10 movies, 9 of them are going to be awful. Now, he was just in the Spider-Man Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, and it's just a voice thing, and he's pretty good in that. But it is very interesting to see how does this person, like, who do you know that you continue to threaten to do something to that continues to put you in movies? And this Gotti movie, I think it was Travolta, and I believe his wife starred in it as well. And it's just so bad. I've seen the trailers for it, and even myself, who will watch just about anything, says it's that bad. But I often wonder who continues to give these people money.
The Pope has launched a Click to Pray app. It's the Vatican's official social network for prayers, and it invites Catholics around the world to pray together. Millions of believers will be able to focus their thoughts around common causes in a global prayer network. People will be able to choose among praying with the Pope to help the Catholic Church's mission, follow a different daily prayer, or post their own prayer request.
How about that, huh? Pope's gone digital. He's looking over there, and he's seeing AOC, and he's seeing Trump, and he's saying, I need to get me some of that. I need to get me on Instagram. I need to get me grammed out. I wonder how fast that thing will grow. But church is one of those things where, I mean, you look at the church, and it's a dying thing. It is. I went to church yesterday, and I look around, and there's not a lot of people there under the age of 50. There's just not. There's a few, but it's we've got science has become the god, and it's very interesting to watch the way that is, and just doing apps and stuff like that. I don't know if that's gonna help you. It isn't, because and we talked about it last week with the Gen Xers and the Gen Zs and the Gen Ys and the millennials and this, that, and the other. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. That there be your Twitter. You can tweet at me. Love hearing from you. Check us out on the old Instagram at Chad Benson Show. You can always text the program as well. 323-538-2423. It's the Chad Benson Show.
is The Chad Benson Show.